Okay, guys, welcome to September 15th, 2020. Today is Tuesday, and I have on my good buddy Kevon. So let me find you. Hold on. There we go. Okay, say hi.
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to speak to you again, Aaron, on
Oh, of
your
course.
platform.
I appreciate having you here. It's fun because we sat on the phone a few days ago for a long time. I'm like, if we could just talk like this would be great
Yeah,
conversation
yeah,
because it's all information that we're sharing with each other. And that's one of the great things. If you guys aren't on the Discord, I have put a link in the chat that you can click and join. It's only good for 24 hours, but that's a lot what we do on the Discord as well as we discuss whatever, truth or information. But you and I specifically, we're talking about gold and silver. And I don't. Let's just start us off with what you know about it, if you don't mind.
yeah, sure. Well, I know first of all, currency, obviously, just a little mini history lesson for a lot of people. It used to just be coins. It used to be actual materials, precious metal, like tangible uh, currency. And then over time, it evolved into um, uh, notes, right? Like, you exchange goods and then you have like the receipt, right? And now we're on I'm kind of fast forwarding, but we're in a system where we have money that's pretty much controlled or manufactured by the central bank, um, which is referred to often as a parasite because it's a debt system. They're like, okay, well, here's the money that's not backed by anything. It's not backed by gold like it used to be. Right now, we're under a fiat system. So everything, we're all broke essentially, right? We're all
Right.
poor, but we're just passing around little green notes. Some people have more than others, right?
Right.
And the bankers, the elites, the higher ups, they have more access to it. They literally create it, and it's not even a lot of their events, a lot of their agendas, a lot of people think has to do with money, but it's really not. It's really not. It's they can print that. They have access to it all,
Right.
but they use that system to manipulate us. And we say money is the root of all evil, right? A lot of people say that, and there's some elements of truth in that. But it's essentially what we make it, and a lot of that a lot of what we do is pretty much influenced by those higher ups, and they use money as a driving motivating force for all of us to well, many of us to do compromising things. So
I never.
it's really
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
I was just gonna say it's very important that we understand like the history of money and the system that we're under, and essentially what measures are being taken to change the debt system that we're in. But
You made a great point when you said that we're all broke. I laughed when you said that the other day. I'm like, oh, isn't that the truth? Whether you're in debt or not, you're using this fiat, aka forced currency, to do
mhm,
everything. And it is glorified to the extreme in music and movies. And all I know is
mhm,
that all I ever wanted was money, like what I thought was
money,
money. And I'm
yeah,
like, I'm going to find a way to get lots and lots of money. And like you said, we were like doing things that, well, most people are, they get a job, but it's still this horrible situation that they're in where they go to school, they're told they have one skill all their life, and they do that
hmm
one skill, and then they're supposedly going to be taken care of in their retirement. And that's really
right,
not been the case for people. And I know you're
right,
familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, who has the books
yeah,
on the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he
hmm
wrote those books because he had his real dad who went and worked the one job for all these years, 40 years or something, and had nothing to show for it at the end. And then his dad had a friend that was a wealthy entrepreneur. And that's why he calls it the Rich Dad, Poor Dad stuff, because he's trying to tell people be entrepreneurial. Don't get stuck in
yeah,
that one job mindset. And one thing that Robert Kiyosaki does is he collects, well, he doesn't collect, he exchanges his dollars for gold, probably silver too, but I've heard him talk more about gold than anything else. And I didn't know
mm,
these things until just over 3 years ago when somebody introduced a gold and silver company to me. And yeah, I'm plugging my gold and silver company because that's exactly how I learned about it. That's the only way
Right.
I ever learned about it. I had no clue why I should even care about anything but dollars and wanting to get lots of dollars. And I learned about all of that. What, it was December of 2017 when we got this history course that just blew my mind on the Federal Reserve and the Bretton Woods Conference. And if anybody doesn't know, the Conference of Bretton Woods was when all these other countries decided to they decided to make the dollar the basic currency to back all of their currencies. So while then the dollar was still backed by gold back then, it
Hmm.
was just like a sinking Titanic ship to attach to the our dollar, because once Nixon stopped backing our dollar with gold in
Yeah.
1971, and he said there won't be any inflation, and 30 days later there's inflation, and now look at where we are. So that was my education into it. And do you buy gold and silver right now?
No, actually, it's funny you and I speaking about that. I've made a conscious decision to purchase, a lot more. What I do is I've invested in certain stock, certain stocks or whatever, of precious metal and stuff like that. But I actually want tangible, like I want to feel my gold.
Oh yeah, like hold on. I thought I would grab some. I forgot to do it ahead of time, but who doesn't like the sound of silver clinking? It's a big difference to have it in your hands, to be able to physically like clink it together, and then just to have somebody say, "Oh, you have an account of futures that we promise we'll send you. We promise." This is
Wow, yeah.
much better, much more fun. It makes a
Oh
fun
man, those are
sound.
good.
Yeah,
Oh man,
I bought these generic rounds from a guy at $17 an ounce on the day that they were selling for 27. You just
wow.
never know, right? But you can buy physical gold and silver from the company I'm with, which I talked to you about. So I'm not pitching this to him. I'm not pitching this to him. I'm pitching it to all you guys in the chat. But we do have physical, and so I buy a lot of stuff from them. But I also do these collectible things, which are kind of fun. I want to show this to you because I didn't buy this at first. There's these collectibles. They come. Have you ever collected baseball cards or anything like that?
Nah, I was a Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh
Okay.
kind of guy.
So you
Yeah,
collected
same,
though.
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So these are collectibles because they are in well, it doesn't matter if it's in perfect condition. This one is in perfect condition.
Mhm.
So you know about collectible stuff. If it's in the best condition you can get it, it's worth more. And if
Yeah.
there's less of them, it's worth more. And it
Yeah,
also
yeah.
matters who's behind it, like the name behind it or the person on it or the date, that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. Some of that depends. Like all the 2020 silver, a lot of 2020 silver, like the silver eagles, are going to be worth more money because they're changing the design next year, and we had a silver shortage this year. But this is not a silver eagle. Anyway, this was a coin that was made by a guy named Miles Standish, and I didn't even want to
Mhm.
buy it. He was only selling it to our company, and I'm like, no, I'm not interested, right?
That thing is gorgeous.
It is. I had no idea because the picture didn't do it any justice. So the day that I went and bought 70 of these rounds from that guy at $17 an
Mhm.
ounce, I went into the shop that had this. There was a shop locally that had this. They were selling it for
Mhm.
$350. He said he'd go down to 300, and I said, "Okay, I'll trade you silver for this." And so I actually only paid $204 because I had spent 17 an ounce on this, and then
Right.
I traded
Wow.
it at $27 an ounce for this. So
Oh,
I mean,
that's smart. That's a finesse right there.
right? So
Kudos to
anyway,
you.
so this is what you get into. So you get to get into things like this, but you learn how
Yeah.
to use that wisely because that's what purchasing power means. That
Power.
gave
Yeah, yeah,
me
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say that.
purchasing power. That gave me the power to negotiate a way better deal, saving
Yeah, yeah.
$100. So
And
anyway,
that's essentially what it used to be, right? Like, I have this, you have that, you value this just a bit more than I value.
mm,
So how about we just trade that? That's kind of
mhm.
the barter system that essentially places around the world are trying to, refine in a modern way and just make it, you know, sustainable. My question to you is, at what point did you realize, you know, you wanted to share all of this information regarding, like, purchasing gold and silver? I know you said that you got into it 3 years ago, but when did it really hit you?
Mhm.
And and what is it? What is one thing that you would really want to like drill into people's head for the future when it comes to buying gold and silver?
I appreciate that question. I like the This feels kind of like an interview now. But it's a good question for me because it hit me. I joined in May of 2017, but I didn't understand it. I just kind of went along with it. I got a few people to join me. And when I say join me, it is multi-level marketing. There's no all transparency here. That's no hiding what the company also does. It's you can buy gold and silver. You don't have to do anything else. You can just buy it, but you can get people involved and earn an income. So I decided to earn an income, not knowing what I'm even doing. In December of 2017, we had a small corporate convention. When I say corporate, anyone's invited. It's just like those big conventions you hear about with some of these bigger names, like I don't know, Eric Worre or something like that, where lots of people come. But ours was just small. There was like 50 of us, and one of the owners, Josh Anderson, he was a history teacher. So he said, I used to be a history teacher. He says, so I'm going to give you guys a history lesson. And I'm like, okay, cool. And it was on Bretton Woods. He gave us he had us watch a video that came from a movie called End of the Road. And I can't remember, it's like End of the Road, The Truth About the Dollar or something like that. And it had several well-known, G. Edward Griffin, Mike Maloney, and the other guy, I can't think of his name, but people would have heard of him. It'll come to me probably in a minute. But he's a well-known gold and silver money guy. But anyway, they had put together this documentary on gold and silver and the dollar. And so Josh Anderson just showed us a little bit of that documentary, and I was like, I had no idea about any of the Federal Reserve information, the Bretton Woods information, what these other countries were doing by tethering themselves to our dollar, that Nixon had stopped backing the dollar in 1971. And this is stuff I can just tell you now because I wanted to know that. My motivation just skyrocketed at that point. And I was like, I want to know more. And so I went and found Mike Maloney, who does a great job, just an excellent job with his episodes on money, explaining the IRS, explaining taxation, explaining all these things that I just would have never known, talking about currency versus money. There are people that don't understand that our money is not money. Our dollar is currency. You get it, but
Yeah.
I still talk to people that I can't get them to understand. And they say, well, everything has value if somebody's willing to pay for it. And I'm like, no, the difference with gold and silver is the human physical effort
Right.
to get it, to go
To get
into
it.
the
Yeah.
ground to get it, then to
That's the
get it,
value. Yeah.
then to get it out of the ground, then to refine it. I remember Mike Maloney once showed this image where there was this huge, I mean, I don't know, tub or something, but it was ginormous. Like he was standing high above it, and it looked like it would just fill tons of dirt, and it was filled with tons of dirt. And he said, once they refine that dirt down into pure gold, it'll probably be like not even an ounce of that huge bin of dirt. And so the point is that is massive physical effort. What is the effort to print the dollar? Absolutely
Yeah.
nothing. So to answer your question, that was so important to me to learn that I was like, everyone needs to know this that's willing to listen. And it was hard to get people to want to listen. And that's when
Yeah.
I was like, I want to reach people that are kind of have an ear to hear. And so I started the YouTube channel. I started the YouTube channel maybe March, April, or May or something, right, of 2018. And so that was my way of trying to talk to people about gold and silver. I remember my first video, I'm like, I don't know where this is going to go. I know the Lord will probably change it for me. It'll probably turn into something I never expected, which it definitely has.
Sure. Yeah.
But the important thing I tell people is I want you to know about gold and silver. And if you never buy from my company, or you do, I will answer your questions because somebody did that for me, whether I
Okay.
bought from that company or not. They wanted me to know, and they cared about my well-being and my understanding and getting out of debt. And it's gotten me out of debt too. I mean, I was already kind
Yeah.
of started, but I think that's to answer your question is I thought everybody deserved to know. Everybody needed to know
Yeah.
that they could be helped.
Now, you dropped a lot. There's something very vital that I can kind of like inject or like kind of latch onto what you said, and I kind of lost my thought. It was so much, but it had to do with the
Sorry.
Federal Reserve. Oh, essentially, no, it's okay. So I read earlier this summer, I believe, that the U.S. Treasury pretty much absorbed the Federal Reserve. Are you like, is that something that you're like super
Yeah,
like
but
kind
I
of?
don't know what they're doing any different. It's the same people that are still in there making, the same decisions.
Right. I kind of wanted your take on that because, it's kind of I think we might have spoken about it before, but it's funny that something so earth shattering is that, you know what I mean? Like, no,
Mm.
not enough people are speaking about it. But I think that signaled, you know, the ushering in of the gold standard in a way, perhaps, right? There's something that you sent me the other day when we spoke before we spoke, and it was regarding Bill Gates, making a cake for Warren Buffett,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
essentially he's like just dumping all of his, his investments, and he's investing in gold.
Right.
So, he's like the barometer. He sets like the cue for everyone to pretty much like, okay, if he's gonna invest in like the video game industry, everybody's gonna get into that, right?
Mhm.
So it's just funny, it's just funny. That's a pretty interesting take that it's the same, pretty much the same entity, you know, and that's essentially what we speak about quite often with draining the swamp,
Right.
right? You make this point that Trump, for example, he replaces swamp creatures with not so decent people, right? And I think that the interesting strategy with that is actually putting certain people front and center, because what happens is, like it's like the Fauci effect. People start to get curious and they start to wonder like who is this guy really, and why is Trump praising him? And when people can, whether you're conservative or black, white, Democrat, whatever, that curious or that vital instinct to look into certain things will pay off in the long run. And I think it's very, very peculiar. And I'm going to actually look in much more into the whole, you know, merging of the Treasury and the Fed, because that's a pretty significant thing for, the Treasury to essentially be in charge of the printing now, and the system of it being backed by precious metals and whatnot.
I
But yeah,
certainly
that's
hope
pretty
they
much it.
do decide to do that, because either way, here's the thing: is if Jacera Nacera or whatever happens, it's still going to be good for me with the gold and silver that I own. It might not be good if I didn't own any. But
Right.
gold, if it went to the value of tier one dollar, or sorry, of tier one money that it's supposed to be, right now it's held at a commodity tier three. Well, they
Mhm.
went at one of these Basel conferences in Switzerland at the central bank of all central bank location meetings. They said we were going to put gold back on tier one, but this was like 3 years ago, and they still haven't done it. But I see what
Yeah.
you're saying, that there's probably this plan to do so. And if they do, it's going to put the dollar value, if it still exists, at
Mhm.
the price of gold could go up to 8 to 10 grand,
Yeah.
and then
I feel
what's
crazy
silver
numbers.
gonna do? What's silver gonna do? It's gonna go up with it, or it could
Yeah.
surpass it. It could surpass that
Surpass it.
amount.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I was just like, "What are you guys talking about?" But people say historically, silver tends to surge. I mean, surge significantly.
Right,
This
gold
is all.
kind of does this, and silver will
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. This is all pretty new to me as far as the history of gold and silver and stuff like that. And honestly, the more I learn, I literally learn pretty much anything to share. I learn to teach,
Hmm.
and this is definitely one of those things that I feel that every single human being should know. And
Yeah,
we did kind of discuss this, right? Like they should teach this stuff
they
in school.
should. They
The
should, and they don't.
entrepreneurial mentality, they got to instill. We've got to start instilling that into the kids, because literally the economy, when people vote, a
Hmm.
lot of times or most people, I think their priority is the economy, right? They care about the economy, and if we have a stable economy, if we have kids, we have human beings, being raised understanding how this stuff actually works, we might get a wise guy that comes along and does something about this stuff, right?
Right. Well, this is, like you say, people don't know. This is a. I know a lot of you guys will be familiar with this, but this is something that everyone should be recognize, is when the dollar, what happened to the dollar as of 1913, which is when the Federal Reserve started. And this is a 100-year graph that goes to 2013 and shows that the dollar has dropped in its value down to 5 cents compared to its actual value of a dollar, which means
Wow.
that it's the dollar that changes, not gold and silver. The value stays the same. And so for gold to go up to $8,000 or $10,000 an ounce doesn't mean that gold is like going to buy me everything I ever needed. It just means the
Yeah.
dollar's going away, or it's going to
Going
have
away.
to get backed by gold, and it will have that value. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if they
Yeah.
back the dollar with gold, and now that ounce becomes worth 10,000
Yeah.
$1 bills? So yeah, you will
Yeah.
be able to buy a lot more stuff, which is again the purchasing power. But this
Yeah.
it is just amazing to watch the different things. The dollar got bolstered back in after the Great Depression. So they probably figure we'll
Right.
have like a little bolstering now, which is why we see this deflation instead of inflation right
Yeah.
now.
Inflation. Yeah.
But it's going to end up going into probably hyperinflation where your eggs cost $2 in the morning and they're $5 at night. But as far as the Treasury and the Fed Reserve goes, I know that Jerome Powell is still leading the Federal Reserve. I know that he's still somehow, whether it's on the surface or not, making decisions, and they're actually trying to say they won't raise their interest rates for the next 3 years. They're trying to say they're going to keep things low for the next 3 years. So I don't know what that means or what's coming up, but I'll tell you one person that is really good that you're going to love if you want to learn more is Mike Maloney. He stays on top of
Right.
this stuff, and he can go to his past stuff where he explains money. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the I was born, I grew up story of money, or you can start now where he's just he'll update, on a regular basis. And I don't watch every single update because he's not a truther. He's
Mhm.
he's going to talk to you about money and gold and silver and bid on the stock markets and crypto, but he's not going to get into, like he likes Joe Rogan. It drives me crazy. I'm like, Mike Maloney, stop. But anyway, yeah, that just to hit on that, I probably went a little long again.
Yeah, no, that's all good. That was actually that was rich. That's very important. Started. I'm sorry, so sorry. I never want to interrupt you because it's just such
You can.
vital,
It's okay.
valuable information. But yeah, you mentioned Davos. So speaking of which, the Great Reset, right? They did this whole big thing about using coronavirus, the COVID pandemic, in order to reset the
Mhm.
capitalist system. But we all know what that's really about.
Right.
These are the same quote unquote. These are the same unelected officials who claim to be for science. They rallied around the whole Paris Accord. This is all about raising our taxes. This is all about using tragedy and disaster in order for us to make completely irrational decisions, or rather to completely surrender our rights, our sovereignty to unelected people who
Right.
absolutely don't have our best interest in mind at all.
Right. Like Bill Gates.
So yeah, they gather every single year in Davos to talk about plans on handling these unhandleable, I don't know if that's a word, but
It
uh,
is today.
disasters. Yeah, it is today. But this is all just socialist, Marxist, regular walk of the mill, run of the mill stuff. They want us to trust them. They say that there's 17,000 genders, and
Hmm.
that they can't. They had to come up with climate change as opposed to like global warming and all that stuff because they just can't get it right. They At some point we either wise up enough for them to have to switch the game plan, but it's just sad to see that they still have a hand in a lot of the major decisions that affect us all overall.
That's my concern for Jacera Nacera, that it will also be a socialist kind of new agey setup. But again, it will be good for those of us who are actually holding gold and silver, unless they try to make that illegal again, which they did for gold, I think from 1934 to 1974. But a lot of us wouldn't just turn it over. Sadly, people just turned it over back then. They're like, well, the government says we need to give them our gold. We need to give them our gold, which is also why it's a pretty anonymous purchase now. Like
Yeah.
my name is on purchases through 7K Metals, but they don't know what I'm buying. They don't know for sure. Am I buying collectibles, which actually they can't consider as gold and silver the way they would bullion? They don't know if I'm
Mhm.
buying, huge amounts of bullion. They don't. It's an anonymous purchase that doesn't have to be reported because that's also, I don't know if I have it, but there's lots of unreportable. I was trying to keep this around. There's lots of unreportable stuff. It doesn't matter. Anyway, if it was started after 1984, I think, which is when Reagan put in this Bullion Act, then it doesn't apply to the Bullion Act and you don't have to report it at all. So if it was created after the Bullion Act, you could sell 50 grand of it in a day and not ever have to tell the IRS. So there's a lot that would
That's
have to change before they could start knowing that we even have it and taking it
right.
from us. So keep buying it now while you can. Obviously, I'm on YouTube and I'm
Right.
telling people that I'm buying this stuff, so they're gonna know I have it. But I don't care. I'm willing to take that chance to get that information out there to people the way that I think that they deserve to get that information. So now's the time,
Very,
people.
very important, very vital. It's kind of like what I always say. People say, "Aren't you scared to put all this information out? Aren't you scared to
Mm,
aren't you?" And I'm like, well, essentially, we're all doomed anyway, right? So I might as well go. What are they going to? They can't suicide us all, right? They
right,
can't get us all. But the
right.
more people that know, the more pressure by default is put on these elected and unelected officials. Even with like to go back to the Davos thing, a lot of people don't even know these talks happen. You know what I
No, of
mean? Like
course
they're
not.
they're being affected by all of this stuff. They have no idea that is going on. And that has to change. That absolutely has to change.
That's why I think people don't understand that it's money. They don't understand. Well, certainly they've helped us forget because they made it illegal for so long and then they stopped backing the dollar with it. So it's allegedly backed by oil. But we don't even know that, people are like, oh, yeah, my grandma gave me a coin or two. I've got that. But they don't understand the value. They'll go think it says $5 on it. So they'll go, okay, it's only worth $5.
Knowledge,
if you
yeah,
if you
yeah,
don't know. And yet that's what that meeting was about, was to say, well, we're going to put gold back on a tier 1, which would make it actual
mhm,
money again and not a
mhm,
commodity. So people look at it as a commodity. I was just talking to a Primerica guy yesterday. Just sat
yeah,
down with a Primerica guy, which if anyone doesn't know, they do several things. They do life insurance, they do I don't they actually do like security for your home.
mhm.
They do, gosh,
I didn't that I don't know. That's interesting.
yeah, he gave me, there's like 6 things that you can do with them. So
Mhm,
anyway, he really believes in gold and silver as a commodity, but he says he has some. He says that they're supposed to recommend 5%, and I'm telling people like 30% of your portfolio should be that, maybe 100%, which he thought was like
mhm.
crazy. He's like, I don't
Right,
think you should put 100%, and I'm like, I know, you're not supposed to put all your eggs in one basket. I'm like, but I don't trust paper. And he's
right.
talking about diversifying in paper. But anyway, he kept calling it a commodity. Or what are you talking about, doing gold and silver as a commodity or as something else? I'm like, I don't know what else you want to look at it as. To me, it's
Yeah,
money.
yeah. I mean, though, it's a material. I mean, honestly, anything is a commodity. If anything, a green piece of paper is just your ticket to just getting things, getting what you want. You said something very important that people should understand earlier was understanding buying power. If I have a bunch of these commodities, then I'll be able to purchase or buy, depending on how much I have,
Right.
you know?
Another myth that people think about gold and silver is that it's a volatile purchase. They
Hmm.
think it's volatile. They don't know that, like, if I go back to this map where the dollar is dropping, they don't
Yeah,
realize that as the dollar drops, gold and silver steadily goes the other way, it goes up, right? So if
right,
I had the gold and silver chart, it would be doing this. And while it would have
mhm,
some of these little bumps in the road like this does,
right,
this continues to go down. Gold and
right,
silver would continue to go up with some little bumps in the road, but
right.
it would continue to go up. And people
Right,
don't see it
because
like that.
people aren't using it, people aren't touching it. If soybeans just were to go, like, endangered, they would be more higher value. Or if people simply just aren't, like, if it's not easily accessible, that's what raises the value of it. And, not just
Right?
having the dollar, in circulation, but the overproduction of it, right? Like, I mean, massively, all this over stimulus over the decades, it brings the dollar down just by default, and that's another super important thing that people need to understand as well. I think that we need to do like a whole new YouTube channel like specifically for that,
We could.
right?
Totally. We could just call it Aaron and Kevon's. I don't know what we call it. I'm not creative on the spot.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Never
Yeah,
mind.
nah, we'll come up with something
Yeah.
eventually. I'm usually good with this stuff, but this isn't exactly my arena. I'm not tenured in this arena, but I'm a pretty quick learner and pretty passionate about this. This is very interesting stuff. Very interesting.
Well, the great thing is that's why I kind of like talking to this Primerica guy yesterday because I do believe that we have the same goal. We want to help people understand how to get out of their debt problems. Oh, that's the other. That's obviously one of the biggest things Primerica does is it helps people set aside money to pay off debt, and it gives
Okay.
them the ability to start where you pay off. You put so much a month to pay this one. Then when you're done
Mhm.
paying that off, you go to the next one, and so on and so on. And
Right.
they try to group it in such a way that whatever you got to get some of these extras out of your life, which is
Mhm.
exactly what I had to do in my life too. I just didn't have anybody sit down and help me understand that. Well,
Right.
the Lord gave that to me, but I was like, man, I need to cut out like coffee or going out for wine. I enjoyed going out for a glass of wine. I'd hire a babysitter and just go out for like a glass or two of wine all alone just to get away from my kids for like an hour because I'm the only parent. And
Right.
it was like $8 a glass. And I'm like, I'm not doing $8 a glass of wine anymore and paying a
Yeah.
babysitter on top of it. So that got cut
Right.
out. Going out to eat got cut out. I moved into a tiny, tiny little 500 square foot apartment for a while with my kids. No living room. Sold off almost everything I had except for our beds and our table, and
Mhm.
washer and dryer. I did that on
See,
purpose so that I would learn to live
your
below my
means.
means. And I
Hmm.
started paying off debt and then chipping away at it just like they tell you to do in Primerica. So talking to
Yeah.
that guy was really good. I'm like, you and we have the same goal. We want to
Yeah.
tell people you can get out of debt. We want to tell people, stop with the dollar first. I say it's the best first thing,
Hmm.
but is gold and silver. But one of the things you have to do is start cutting out the things you don't need, and that's really hard for people. So
Yeah.
they have to sit and say, what am I spending my money on? You have to actually write that out and go, what is my monthly income? And what am I spending? And
Yeah.
almost everybody is spending outside of that somehow. I
Yeah.
guess with credit cards and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm a little guilty of that. I sometimes go on these like binges of just spending, and it's just pretty embarrassing sometimes. But as I learn more and more and more, I just want to be super responsible and just like help everyone within my sphere to do the same.
That's
You know.
why my channel says I'm a hot mess irresponsible mom that's
Mhm.
becoming less irresponsible. And so
Mhm.
I paid off $18,500 that I owed to the IRS. Paid that off just this year, my last time paying them. Done. Over. So I don't owe the IRS any more money. I've paid off numerous other debts, but I've also just stopped accruing debt. And that old
Right.
stuff after 7 years falls off. So when you asked me, do you if Jasara and Nasara came about and they like they're
Yeah.
gonna forgive all debt, you said would I
Mhm.
be upset? And I was like, no, because I owed that money. I bought things and did things with that money that I still have some of today, or use those things to the extent of that I was loaned it, and I have to pay it back. But some of it I never had to pay back because it falls off after 7 years. So there
Right.
is loan forgiveness in that
Forgive.
way, not with
Yeah.
student loan, not with the IRS, but
Right.
there was so much debt that went away just because I didn't accrue anymore, and the old stuff fell off. But
Right.
now, if I get hit with something where it's like, oh, you need to pay this before it gets sent to a collector, which just happened today or yesterday, it was some Geico payment I forgot about, and I'm like,
Yes.
whoa, I'm gonna pay
Just
that.
reminded me of a payment I forgot.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna pay that before it goes to collection. Now I care about that. Whereas there was a
Hmm.
time I didn't care. I was like, let it go to collections, let it be, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything to me. And now I'm like, whoa, I'm going to pay that. So not
Yeah.
because I care about my credit score, because I don't, because I'm not trying to
Neither
get
do I.
loans. I'm not
Neither
trying,
do I. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't care
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
credit score, but it's about paying what I owe and being
Yeah.
responsible.
Responsible. Yeah, that carries over into different facets of your life, and that's very noble of you. I've heard some people really, they're all for the great awakening and they're this and they're that, but they are like not
Mm.
uh, happy about the debt forgiveness thing. And I'm like, don't you care about other people? You know what I mean? Don't you care that other people are going to be, I don't know, helped in a very significant way? Because this is the system. This is the beast, debt,
Yeah, it
you
is.
know,
It
precisely
is.
what it is.
It is, but those people are still going to remain irresponsible. That's the problem. Is it's
Yeah.
really not going to actually help them, and
Yeah, that's true.
that's why I
It,
like.
it's a mindset.
Right.
This is all of these changes. It's a very spiritual thing. You know what I mean? It's not. it's not as practical as many people think, and I think that a lot of people are irresponsible, for obvious reasons. We're outside influences, but there's just this discouraged mindset when it comes to finances and debt and stuff like that. And what I've learned personally is that it can be really intimidating, right? Like to learn about the money world and finances and how to be responsible about it. But
Mm-hmm.
when you really cross that line of like just educating yourself, you realize it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. And you I think from most people, I can speak for myself, but I think a lot of people would come to realize that as they're self-educating. And because you have a vested interest. This is your life we're talking about in a lot of
Right.
cases. So I think kind of building a culture perhaps, or like maybe a conscious effort to bring financial responsibility to the forefront. I think that'll make a cultural change that'll turn into a very practical thing in a lot of people's lives, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's why I say buying gold and silver is the best first step because it's the easiest because you
Yeah.
just do it. Just
Yeah.
purchase it and then you kind of can learn along the way. Now I'm not sure that I'm totally right because I think it is a good idea. I did do those other things first. I did start living below my means. I did start cutting things out that I knew I didn't need in my life and not spending that extra money. And that is that's a mindset shift like you said that is not easy to do. Like I have these moments where I'm like I just want to go buy something for myself and then I did buy myself some shoes recently that I'm really excited for, and I bought myself a new computer chair. So this old piece
Oh,
of junk is gonna go soon. This is like
yeah.
so this is the other thing I've done is I've gotten very frugal. So if somebody puts something by the you've ever live in an apartment complex and people put stuff by the dumpster because they just don't want to move it
Yeah.
and it's
Hmm.
in great condition, that's how I
Hmm.
got my couch. I checked it. I checked under the cushions. I checked everything. I'm
Right.
like, there's not some kind of like spider nest in here or something. It was in perfect condition. I'm like, they must have just been like kids that parents bought them whatever they want or something because they were young kids. I saw them take it out, and I'm like, this
Hmm.
couch is in perfect condition. So I took it, and then this chair. This is a computer chair that I took from,
Hmm.
by the yes, I took it from by the dumpster. Everybody. So
No, no, no one's judging. No,
I've had
I'm.
this I've had this chair now for I don't know, 3 years or something, and it's not that comfortable. And this is where I watch movies or whatever because I'm watching V for Vendetta right now. That's my homework for a show I'm doing Friday that we're pre-recording. But anyway, it's so uncomfortable, and I finally bit the bullet and I bought myself a $130 computer chair. But by the way, I want my patrons who I love to know that that is what your money goes to. That your money is not going to my wine glass or that I don't have anymore. I have wine at home. I buy it way more cheaply. But that's what my patron money is going to is computer supplies, internet fees, phone fees, the stuff that keeps me going here. So thank you patrons for that computer chair that should be here in the next few days.
Yeah, if it works, it works. But comfort definitely takes things to the next level.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Should be. Um, what else we got?
Well, I was going to say, by the way, too, when I was talking to that Primerica guy, they push all paper. They love the word diversify, but everything they do is on paper. They won't agree with me. If you're Primerica, no offense, but it is. It's all. This guy says, well, it's not paper because you actually own a part. Like, let's say you bought a part, stock, and McDonald's goes, you now own a part
Right.
of McDonald's. I'm like, well, give me that, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So that's the thing about investing, right? I use these apps to invest. Now, I always think, okay, what if one day there's this reset, or me specifically, my phone just gets wiped out, and then uh, for whatever malicious
Right.
reason, a particular app that I use, they just lost everything.
Yeah. Right.
All of my hard-earned dollars that I've put into that and that I've accumulated and everything, it's gone.
Mhm.
So when you're investing, are you actually like it's kind of like when you give your money to the bank. right? When you put your money in a bank account, they trade your own money. So once you put your money in the box, it's
Yes,
gone,
that's right.
and then they do whatever they want with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if somebody else wants to pull out money, they're like, where's Kevon's 10? Let's give the 10 to him, right? Like that's how essentially it works. And it it's just this whole system. It's just the more you learn about it, the more like how the hell did this like how is this going on? How do we just like perpetually just accept this? You know? In many ways it works. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, like completely against the system, like 100,000% the system. But I think there's some ways, some systems that haven't been thought of or even tried that can absolutely bring not just, financial freedom, but like we said, like a particular spiritual uh revolution, you know? Sorry, what is this?
Uh-oh,
No.
someone's ringing my doorbell, but I'm busy. I can't come to the door. I hope it's my chair.
All right, yeah, yeah.
That would be
Maybe.
awesome. Have to be talking about it. Were you going to say
Yeah.
something else on that?
Nah. I think
Okay.
that was just about it, yeah.
I think it was an interesting conversation because he didn't understand why I was saying paper, which I get. He's been doing this business for 20 years. He said he does
Yeah,
well. He makes apparently over 100 grand. And I'm like, good for you, right?
that's good.
Like that's fantastic. I'm glad that he's doing that well. I'm glad that it's working for him. But that's why I was trying to explain to him what I mean by paper because I don't actually get a physical chunk of McDonald's if I buy stock
Right,
into it.
right.
I don't actually get um, I don't actually get anything physical out of any of it. If you can buy stocks into gold and silver, you can buy stocks into
Yeah.
all sorts of things, but you don't get it physically by doing all that. I feel like somebody's really trying to come into my house.
Do you want to,
Yeah, you talk for a second. I'm gonna see what's going on.
yeah. So I just want to say hi, everybody. My name is Kevon, but I also make music. So, this is a perfect plug. My name is K-E space Cassells. So it's K Cassells. You can find me on SoundCloud. I have some work on Apple Music and Spotify and stuff like that. So if you like alternative music, when I say alternative, I mean like alternative indie. You'll find my stuff rather engaging. So
Yeah,
again,
check him out.
it,
But by the way, it was just some lady going door to door and she didn't need me at all.
she's selling
Where do
Primerica still.
Yeah. I don't know who she is, but I also glad that she's just going to. She was very much like
Yeah,
knocking,
like
ringing the
yeah,
doorbell. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna answer the door, lady, just 'cause my truck's here doesn't mean I want to talk.
right.
Where do people find you on SoundCloud and for your music?
Oh, you can just type in my name. So I have a page on SoundCloud, like a profile. It's,
Spell
like in.
name out for me so I can spell it for them.
So that's K fancy E. The E with the little accent over it.
Well, I can't do that from the keyboard, but
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Um, do you have a Mac or no?
no, it's a PC.
Okay, a PC. Okay. And then Cassells, Cassells.
Wait, like QUE. Yeah. Okay.
No, 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 no.
No,
No, K. No, it's
K
just K E.
E.
Yeah.
Two L's.
And Cassells, yeah,
CASSELLS.
yeah,
On SoundCloud. We need more truther music, man. That's for sure. We need that stuff.
yeah.
Hey,
You
you know
know.
what? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead. I
I was gonna
insist.
say it would be really fun to freestyle, but I'm not good at it, so I don't want to.
Nah, yeah. We'll do that one day. I got to get into a zone. I probably got to get a little wine in me or whatever. But
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm
we
I'm
should have
I'm
a
a
wine freestyle video
yeah. Let's do
sometime.
it.
That would be
But you
fun.
got to join me.
I
You got to join
would.
me. You
See, I
should.
would. I'm not
You
good at
got
it,
to
but I'd
write.
still do it.
You got to write some notes down and then kind of
That's true.
memorize it so everything
That's
flows.
true.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how I was watching those guys that do freestyle on. There's some show where they give them a subject and then they got to start
Mhm.
freestyling on
Yeah.
it. And then they change the subject and then they got to go on that. And then
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they just got to keep going. And I remember
Yeah.
this Christian rapper named Annie Mineo. He was so good at it, but you could
Mm.
tell that he had a way that he started that was really
Right.
similar all the time. So he would
Yeah.
start, and then the creative juices would flow. But yeah,
Yeah. Flow. Yeah. That's exact. Yeah. I've gotten better over time. it's very confidence driven.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta
Oh,
be
for sure.
confident. I grew up in Queens, New York, so rapping it's a very common, it's like very prevalent. And in high school, we used to have the Lions Den, and a lot of my friends, they would, just kind of circle around and they would just freestyle.
Right.
And I was always like on the outside, just kind of like observing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I just got into it. Like I was there just like, don't you write? Like what's up with you? So I just kind of jumped in and everyone was just like so surprised. And then my confidence in that just
Yeah.
drove me. And then before you know it, I was recording, my own music, singing, rapping, whatever. And just to go back on what you said, we need more truth in music. Um, the importance of us vibrating on a higher frequency, love and, light, that it's going to kind of be weird me talking about this, but like my understanding of the extraterrestrial, whatever they actually are, they feed off of our negative energy. They feed off of us,
Absolutely.
our anger, our fear, and that's why they target the most vulnerable, the children.
Mm-hmm.
And just today, while really diving into all of this stuff and how these things operate, I made a super pledge to really refine my music content, to make people feel a specific way. I want to be much more intentional about that, because I mean, my favorite artists have done that for me in the world. Like, for example, Michael Jackson, all extracurricular, talk around him to the side. Like, his
Yep.
music alone changed lives. Like, I mean, changed lives, not moods, lives. And I think that his catalog, a lot of his hits, it affected world events. I think now that I really look at things in a much more um, objective, light, or I have more of a objective outlook on all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's vital. It's vital to have more positive music. You turn on the radio, you get the same 6 songs all day, and they are all filthy.
Mm.
You kind of froze on me.
That's a.
Maybe.
We'll unfreeze in a minute.
Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, like you know, I try to influence some of my friends who make music to be more. I'm not telling them what to make. I'm not telling them what to write or anything, but like just be more conscious of what they're putting out, because you never know who's listening. You never know who will listen to a song. I've learned that, the hard way. A lot of good came out of that, but yeah.
I put myself into a spiritual Christian bubble several years ago. So somebody in the chat just really loves KB. He's okay. I like him. But what I did is I had to stop everything secular for my life. Secular
Mhm.
movies, secular books, secular music. In fact, it's kind of crazy because now I'm so outside of that bubble, but I had to go into protective mode because I was changing my life. I was leaving, I was turning it toward the Lord again. I was leaving behind a lot of toxicity, all the negativity, like you speak of, terrible
Mhm.
music I would listen to, terrible guys I was dating, just inviting just demonic entities into my home all the time. And so to turn that around, I had to just get away from, had to just get it out of my life. And
Yeah.
so I don't even, it's so hard for me to listen to anything secular anymore because all I can hear is what they're actually saying. I'm
Yeah.
very sensitive to what they're saying. And
Same here.
it's about me, 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 and I'm better than you, and don't you wish you were me, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
screw your husband, and I'm gonna,
Mhm.
and then it's even, don't even get me started. I won't even get into what that Cardi B song is
Cardi
about.
B, yeah.
Oh, filthy,
Oh,
just
man.
filthy. And
I was
there,
watching. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that because think there was a time that I was interested in any of that is crazy,
Yeah. It's funny. I listened to some of the songs that I used to listen to,
right?
or shows that I used to, and I'm like, what the hell? And
Totally.
as a matter of fact, I listened to a Michael Jackson song, and I want you to listen to this one. But
Okay.
another part, you're just another part of me. growing up, I'm like, oh, he's talking about a girl. He's like, you're just another part of me. We're two in one or whatever.
Mhm.
But when you really listen to it, it is nothing about romance. Really, he's talking about like the lyrics are, um, the planets are lining up. This is our message. We're sending out a major love, and I'm like, no wonder this made me feel good. Like I wasn't really picking up on the lyrics,
Mhm.
but the intention that he put into it, you felt it. And sometimes I listen to my own stuff. I'll go back and I'll listen to it, and a lot of times I'm like, like drunk or like, influenced at the time. So then
Yeah.
the very next day, I'd like listen to it with a whole new like, you know, state of mind or whatever, and it's definitely something to behold. Definitely something to behold. But um, that's why it's just so important to be intentional when you create this stuff. Whenever you do anything, it could be a YouTube channel and you're speaking. Your intentions, they flow out. People feel it. You know what I
Yep.
mean? You can say something totally opposite to what you actually feel, and people pick it up. And that goes into, not to sway way off topic, but like if you're in tune enough, you can with Congress. You know what I'm saying? For example, a lot of the leaders in Congress, a lot of my friends, they take these people as genuine people.
Right.
But the friends who don't, the ones who are truly in tune, they can read through the lines,
Yep.
right? Because the intention is completely opposite than what's being said, and that's what we pick up on. Sorry.
I know it feels like clown world when I see these people talking about how they care about children and us, and
Yeah.
it's like Kamala Harris, and I'm like,
So
no,
insulting.
you don't.
So insulting.
But
So insulting.
speaking on the intention, you're right, because I used to swear when I started my YouTube channel. I didn't
Mhm,
I didn't think anything of it. I would say swear words.
mhm.
I don't think I was throwing out like the F word. Maybe I was. I don't even remember.
Mhm.
I might have been. But there are people that are still on my channel that were there back then, and they remember when I decided to stop swearing. And I started a
Yeah.
swear jar of silver dimes that I was going to give to my kids every time I said a swear word. But one of the reasons I wanted to stop saying it is it occurred to me that they are called curse words. And I was like, what if I'm cursing
First. Oh,
somebody or
yes.
myself by using
Yes.
these words?
Those
And I'm
words.
like,
Exactly.
I need to stop doing it. So there was a time where, okay, oh, I can't right now. There was a time where I would, throw it
She
out.
wants you to curse
Yeah,
so that
this.
you can get some silver. She's trying to frustrate you.
Yeah, well, it affected me to think, imagine that I might be putting any kind of curse on anybody or myself. So that full, I did call myself out live. It was really nice. I have such a good community. Nobody was like, nobody was offended that I was swearing, but they were so glad that I stopped. It's kind of like when I
Right.
decided to look into flat Earth. Nobody said, "Oh, I'm getting off this moron train." Everybody was like,
Yeah.
"Good for you. Go
Yeah.
for it."
No, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's
This is the
beautiful.
this community has helped change me along the way. I don't expect anyone to ever go back and watch all my videos. That would be insane. But if you did watch
Mm.
like a few along the way, I'm sure you would see a progression of change in my intention, right? In my attitude and my positivity. And I certainly didn't used to pray. I pray a lot now after live shows or definitely before them, often at the end of them with every with if I have a guest that wants to pray, they pray, but that's something I would have never felt comfortable doing in the beginning. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat how much it's changed along the way. But anyway, we got 4 minutes, and this lady apparently is still outside trying to come in my house or talk
Oh,
to me.
really?
My kid just
Yeah.
said there's somebody
God.
outside wants to talk to me, and I'm like, I'm not coming outside, so sorry.
Wow.
But anyway, any last thoughts that you want to any final thoughts or anything you want to
Uh,
throw out there to summarize our talk today?
no, but everything I do want to say that everything that you're doing, putting all this information out, it's remarkable, and I super commend you. Thank you for
Thank you.
constantly inviting me back. I want to definitely continue to learn from each other, and then also simultaneously teach others along the way. So
You're
yeah.
needed and wanted in this community. We like having you, and you bring a not that different of a perspective because we think a lot alike, but it is still a different perspective from a fresh source of, and like you said, there's stuff that you don't have all the information on. There's stuff I don't have all the information on, and so
Mhm.
it's fun. We call it learning together.
Yeah, learning together. Yeah. All right.
Okay, well, you tell people you have a YouTube channel as well, right? Do you?
Nope, not
Oh, you
yet.
don't.
Not
You
yet.
don't. Okay.
It's coming.
All right. Well, go to the
I'm
SoundCloud for
content
now.
building it. Sorry.
Oh, no, I just said go to the SoundCloud for now.
Yeah, SoundCloud, and if you got Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, whatever you use, I have an album on there. K-Cassells. I have 2 songs on there too. Young Forever and Nova, as well as my EP. First EP released officially. It's called CUE. So yeah, check that out, guys.
Do check it out. And he's no longer on Facebook apparently, so
Yeah.
no need to look
Yeah.
for you there. I won't get into
Yeah.
it for you.
Yeah. Next time. Next time we'll get
Yeah,
into
well,
it. We'll talk about
I have
big
lost
tech next.
so many accounts. I lost my main account that I had for like 10 years with Facebook, then I lost the backup account, and so this third account, I just don't even bother putting up any much personal stuff at
Yeah.
all. It's just like
Wow.
whatever.
Jeez. Well,
Okay. Well, until next time, right? I think
until
this
next
was
time.
great. I appreciate having you, and I think, I want to wish you a blessed evening and come back again.
Likewise. I shall. Take
All
care.
right. Good night.
Have a good night. Take care.